Excellent. Again, everyone, thank you so much for investing some time with us this morning to join our Autosoft Insights webinar for April. And like Zach stated, we're going to be focused on the service quoting functionality living within the Autosoft DMS. And keep in mind, this is functionality that you currently have access to within Autosoft today. So what the service quoting functionality is going to do for your store, like Zach stated, it's going to make things a lot more efficient. Because at many dealerships, building an estimate can still be a very manual process. It can involve several different steps, multiple people, and ultimately take more time than it actually should. With our service quoting tool, what you're going to be able to do is you're going to be able to build what I like to refer to as a full out-the-door estimate for that customer. So it's going to include everything as far as labor, parts, shop supplies, and taxes. We're going to walk you through that process. We're also going to walk you through how you can email that estimate right over to a customer and then roll it into a repair order, which really can cut down on double data entry for you in the service department. So let's walk through how the process works and see how it can save you some time. So we're going to begin on the main service screen, and we're going to come down here to service quoting. And you'll notice the service quoting functionality is set up just like the repair order screen. So you can jump into an estimate at any given point throughout the process here. And starting a quote is just like starting a repair order. All you need to do is click on Start a Quote, and you would be able to start a quote in the same manner that you would start a repair order. So you could either input the last 8 of the customer's VIN if you know it, or you could come down here to search, and you can look up that customer just as if you were creating a repair order for them. Whenever I pull up the customer, it's going to display all their personal and vehicle information here. So this is where you'd see everything as far as their name, address, email, phone numbers. You'll see the vehicle information here. You can even run your OEM history report before you build an estimate. That way you can see if there's any open recalls or TSBs on that vehicle. Down here in the bottom right-hand corner, you can see if that vehicle currently has an extended service plan on it. So that information ultimately is going to appear in service. It's either going to flow through from sales. So if a customer bought the vehicle there and they purchased an extended service plan, that information is going to be present in service whenever you go to either create a repair order, schedule an appointment, or build an estimate. And then over here on the left-hand side where it says quote type, this is where you can indicate what type of quote we are creating. It will then correlate to the type of repair order. So we can either generate a service quote, a body shop quote, a contract repair order quote for, like, for example, a third-party extended service plan, or even a quick lane quote. Now on the next screen is where you can start building out the items you want to include in your quote. So this is set up just like the enter condition screen of your repair order. So you can go ahead and you can use any of your service menu items or opcodes that you have already loaded into Autosoft. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add a few things here to our estimate. Now, one of the things I did want to mention is if you are using a labor time guide, such as ALLDATA or Identifix or even Chilton's, what you can do is you can look up the information from any labor time guide and you can incorporate right here into the labor time field. So obviously for any of the opcodes that you have set up in Autosoft, the time is automatically going to come over from the opcode, just like you see here. If you're looking up time in a third-party labor guide, you can add the labor time right here to any job line that you're including in your estimate. And one of the things I always like to call out with our quoting functionality is the integration that we have available with Mitchell Pro Demand. So if your dealership already uses Mitchell in the shop, you have the capability of integrating the labor time from Mitchell along with any OEM part number information. You can actually bring that back from Mitchell into either an estimate here that we're building, or you can actually do it within a repair order too. So just to show you how that functionality works, if I click on the Pro Demand button down here, what it's going to do is it's going to send the VIN to Mitchell's outside service quoting website right from Autosoft. So here it's automatically going to be decoded for you. And depending on the job that you want to look up, you can either utilize the search bar up here, or you can utilize the categories. So you can select whatever it is that you want to look up right from the categories. So in this case, if I wanted to replace the master cylinder in this truck, I could go ahead, I could select the labor, and Mitchell tells me it can be, it's a 2-hour job, can be performed by a B-level technician. So I can go ahead and I can add that labor. It's also going to show any relevant parts that I may need for that repair. Now, being that the VIN of the vehicle has been provided to Mitchell, you can ensure that the right part numbers are being used for that repair. Anytime you see the part number here in blue, it'll actually take you to the diagram. So this is something that you can actually print right from Mitchell. And the price that you see here, the price that is provided by Mitchell, where they get it from is the OEM list price found on the parts tape. So if your dealership has a pricing matrix set up within your parts department, your pricing parameters can override the number that comes back from Mitchell. So that way, whenever you give out an estimate, you can always ensure that your pricing is being included. So in this case, we're going to bring the part and we're going to bring the labor time back over into our estimate. So there we can see the time that came over from Mitchell. We can adjust this. So if I need to give my technician a little bit of extra time because I know they may run into some issues with rusty bolts, I could go ahead and I can add some extra time. I can also add any other additional information to the 3 C's here pertaining to that repair. So if I wanted to type out any additional detail for any of the job lines that I'm adding to my estimate, I can do that. And then ultimately, if the estimate does become a repair order, all of that information that I've entered here is then going to flow from the estimate into the repair order. So now I've clicked on save. I've added all of my job lines that I want to include to the estimate. On the next screen is where, first of all, any of my service menu items that have part numbers associated with them. Whenever I add those to an estimate, those part numbers are automatically going to be included in the estimate. So that automatically came over with the service menu item. This part number here is the one that I brought back over from Mitchell. Now, one of the things that you'll see here is this ties into your parts inventory. So this is going to tell me what my on-hand quantity is for that particular part number. The price that you see here for anything that comes over from Mitchell, it's always initially going to display that Mitchell price. If your dealership has a pricing matrix set up, what you're going to want to do is select the part line. And then when you tab over, what that's going to do is it's automatically going to recalculate the parts price based on your pricing matrix. So we can also add any other part numbers that we may need to include in the estimate right from here. So if I wanted to add another part number, I could do that right here. And the other thing too about the parts section here within a service quote is if the parts department is adding parts from their side, they can do that right from the query screen. So they could actually build a list of parts in queries and dump it right from queries over to a service quote, just like they would to a counter ticket or a repair order. So depending on whose responsibility it is to add the parts, whether it be done by the parts department or whether it be done by the service department, I can do it either way. The nice thing about being able to add the parts from service is when you're doing it, you can actually see the on-hand quantity here. So you'll know whether or not those parts are in inventory. So once I've added all of the parts that I need to include in the estimate, the next screen here is just like within my repair order. So if I need to incorporate any sort of bulk fluid or any sort of sublets into the estimate, I can add those items right here. The final screen here is where I can then email the estimate over to the customer. So when I click email to customer, it's going to send the estimate over to the customer to the email address associated with their service customer profile. Now, you can click on view quote and generate the same document. So it's going to generate the exact same document that you would be sending to the customer via email. And everything is broken down in the estimate here for each job line. So you can see all of the details as far as your labor, your parts, your shop supplies, and taxes. So ultimately, you have that full out the door total so that the customer knows exactly what it's going to cost for them to repair their vehicle. Up here, you'll also be able to see the extended service plan information. So that's going to print on the estimate for the customer. You can customize any sort of message that you may want to include on the quote right here. And you can also dictate how long that quote is valid for based on whatever your shop's policy is. So whether it be 10 days, whether it be 30 days, Autosoft is going to store any quote within the DMS for you for up to 90 days. So let's say you email this estimate over to a customer and it takes them a couple days, but they finally get back to you and decide they want to move forward. All you would need to do is whenever you come into service quoting and you come here to review and print, if you see the quote list down here, this is going to show you all of the quotes that you've created. So you could select, let's say, Charlie's quote. And then depending on if Charlie already has an open repair order, I could take that estimate and I could dump it to an open repair order. So when I click on active, it's going to show me that list of all of those open repair orders right here. Or if I'm dumping it to a brand new repair order for Charlie, I can dump it directly to a new repair order. So what it's going to do is it's going to take everything from the estimate and now it's going to dump it to the repair order, and it's going to give me the RO number right here. And when I click OK, now what it's going to do is it's going to take me right into that RO. So it's taking me right into that repair order for Charlie that I've created from the estimate. So now I'm in the repair order, and I'd be able to treat it just like a normal repair order. So I'd be able to come in, I'd be able to update the miles on the customer's vehicle whenever they bring it in. I can see the service contract information. I can drill down into the service history from here. And then on the next screen is where I would see all of the jobs that came over from the estimate onto the repair order here. So everything is going to be there for me. Now keep in mind, whenever you're selling parts to a repair order, when an estimate gets created, any of the parts that you add on that screen, those parts are not impacting your on-hand quantity, because at that point in time, we're just simply providing an estimate for the customer. We're not actually selling parts to a repair order or to a counter ticket. So it's not impacting the on-hand quantity at all. Whenever I push an estimate over into a repair order, what I am going to want to do on the parts side is when I come into parts and I pull up that repair order. So I'll come here to service sales. I'll go to line parts, and I'll pull up that repair order right here from the list. So there's the repair order that I just created from the estimate. What it's going to do is it's automatically going to have everything here preloaded for me. So now I can just go through and officially sell those parts to the RO. So if my service person, whenever they built this out, if they added the part lines and they associated them with the right job lines, then I can simply just go through and tab through. I can also make sure that the parts are in fact associated with the proper job lines. So everything that came over from that estimate and service is also going to be here on the part side for me. So at this point, once I've sold those parts to the repair order, now they're being relieved from my on-hand quantity, my inventory. So in this case, we've gone through everything as it relates to the service quoting functionality. The last thing that I wanted to call out is that whenever you go into your quote list here, so if you go to service quoting and you go to review and print and you go to your quote list, when you come here to closed, this is where you're going to be able to see any of the quotes that have been converted over to a repair order. So at this point, when you click on it, it's telling you that the quote has been closed. If for whatever reason you want to reactivate that quote, you can. So it's going to give you this prompt, and you can either say no, or if you say yes, it's now going to bring that quote that you created back here into the quoting tool. So now I would be able to access that quote from my quote list as if I never turned it into a repair order. But it's still telling me right here that I dumped it over to this RO. And that concludes our presentation of the service quoting functionality.